The ancient Kitharan warrior lay motionless in the medical bay of the space station, his once proud silver fur now dulled to ash gray. Commander Valak had served the Galactic Council for over 3 centuries, leading countless battles against the Void Seekers who threatened peaceful worlds across 7 star systems. His massive frame, easily twice the size of most humanoids, barely fit on the medical platform designed for smaller species. Dr. Sarah Chen watched the vital signs flicker weakly on her scanner as she approached the dying alien. The readings painted a grim picture that made her heart sink. Multiple organ failure, severe neural degradation, and cellular breakdown that had progressed beyond what any known medicine could reverse. The other medical staff had already given up, marking Valak's file with the dreaded red notation that meant comfort care only. "His people have accepted his fate," whispered Dr. Melthorn, the station's chief medical officer, whose blue-scaled hands trembled slightly as he spoke. "The Kitharans believe that when the Great Hunt calls, a warrior must answer. They see our intervention as dishonorable." Sarah nodded slowly, understanding the cultural implications, but feeling something deep inside rebel against simply letting this magnificent being fade away. She had studied Kitharan physiology during her xenobiology training, fascinated by their unique dual heart system and regenerative capabilities that had made them legendary warriors. But those same systems were now shutting down in cascade failure. The wolf-like alien's eyes opened slowly, revealing irises that shifted from amber to deep gold as they focused on her. Despite his weakness, intelligence and dignity shone through his gaze. He had lived through the rise and fall of 3 galactic governments, witnessed the birth of new star systems, and commanded respect from species across the known universe. "Human doctor," Valak's voice rumbled like distant thunder, each word carefully measured. "I have heard of your kind's persistence, but some fights cannot be won through stubborn refusal to surrender." Sarah stepped closer, her medical tricorder humming as it took detailed readings. "Commander, I've reviewed your medical history. Your species has remarkable healing capabilities that we're only beginning to understand. What if there's something we're missing?" A sound that might have been laughter wheezed from the old warrior's chest. "Young healer, I have consulted with the wisest medical minds across 12 species. The Etherians with their quantum consciousness, the Crystalline Collective with their perfect biological algorithms, even the ancient progenitors who seeded life across this galaxy. All have reached the same conclusion." "But they're not human," Sarah said quietly, surprising herself with the conviction in her voice. Valak's ears twitched with what might have been amusement. "And what makes human medicine so special? Your species has been part of the galactic community for barely 50 years. You have no advanced technology, no centuries of accumulated knowledge, no mystical understanding of life forces." Sarah pulled up a chair beside the medical platform, settling in with the determination that had carried her through medical school on Earth and xenobiology specialization on Alpha Centauri. "You're right. We don't have any of those things, but we have something else." "And what is that?" "We're too stupid to know when something is impossible." This time, Valak's laughter was genuine, a rich sound that hadn't been heard in the medical bay for weeks. Other patients and medical staff turned to look, surprised to hear any sound of joy from the dying warrior's room. "Explain this human foolishness to me, Dr. Chen." Sarah activated her personal datapad, pulling up files she had been studying for the past 3 days since Valak had arrived at the station. "Every species that examined you approached the problem from their own biological framework. The Etherians see consciousness as quantum probability waves. The crystallines view life as mathematical equations to be balanced. The progenitors think in terms of genetic destiny." She leaned forward, her dark eyes intense with focus. "But humans? We see life as a series of problems to be solved, puzzles to be taken apart and put back together differently. We don't accept biological destiny because we spent our entire evolutionary history fighting against it. Valak listened intently as Sarah continued. Your people evolved on a world with 2 moons, creating complex tidal forces that shaped your dual heart system. The gravitational variations triggered cellular regeneration cycles that synchronized with lunar phases. But you've been away from your homeworld for over 50 years, serving in deep space. The stellar medics accounted for that. They provided gravitational simulation chambers. They simulated your homeworld's gravity, yes. But gravity is only one factor. What about the specific electromagnetic spectrum of your twin suns, the trace mineral content of your world's atmosphere, the quantum resonance patterns unique to your birth system? The old warrior's eyes widened slightly as Sarah pulled up complex charts on her datapad. I've been reviewing stellar cartography data, comparing the electromagnetic signatures of every system you've served in over the past 50 years. None of them match your homeworld's specific frequency patterns. You believe this has caused my cellular breakdown? I think your body has been slowly losing synchronization with its biological rhythms for decades, like a musician trying to play a symphony when every instrument is slightly out of tune. Eventually, the harmony breaks down completely. Sarah stood and began pacing, her mind racing through possibilities. The other doctors focused on treating the symptoms of organ failure. But what if we treat the underlying cause? What if we could recreate not just your world's gravity, but its complete environmental signature? Valak was quiet for a long moment, his golden eyes studying the young human doctor with new interest. Even if your theory is correct, the technology to recreate an entire world's environmental signature would cost more than most planets' annual budgets. The Galactic Council would never approve such expenditure for one old soldier. The Galactic Council doesn't need to know, Sarah said with a grin that Valak found both alarming and oddly reassuring. I have some friends in the engineering corps who owe me a few favors, and humans have a reputation for creative problem-solving with limited resources. For the first time in months, Valak felt something other than resigned acceptance. It wasn't quite hope yet, but it was no longer complete despair. Dr. Chen, why are you doing this? I am not of your species. My death would not affect humanity in any meaningful way. Sarah paused in her pacing, considering the question seriously. On Earth, we have a saying, not on my watch. It means that as long as we're responsible for something, we don't give up. You're in my medical bay, under my care. That makes you my responsibility. And humans take such responsibilities seriously? Sometimes to a fault, Sarah admitted. We once spent 30 years and billions of credits just to save a single species of whale on our homeworld. We've terraformed dead moons just because we felt bad about the ecosystems we accidentally destroyed. We're kind of ridiculous that way. Valak's tail, which hadn't moved in days, gave a small twitch. Perhaps there is wisdom in such foolishness. I'll need detailed scans of your cellular structure at the quantum level, Sarah said, already pulling up requisition forms on her datapad. And I'll need to contact some engineers about borrowing equipment that definitely isn't supposed to leave its assigned stations. Dr. Chen, Valak called as she headed for the door. My people have a saying, the pack that runs together hunts together. I have run alone for too long. Sarah smiled back at him. Well then, Commander, welcome to the human pack. We're loud, we're stubborn, and we don't know when to quit. I think you'll fit right in. As she left the medical bay, Sarah's mind was already racing through the logistics of her impossible plan. She needed to contact Lieutenant Martinez in stellar engineering, Dr. Okafor in quantum physics, and probably hack into at least 3 restricted databases. The fact that what she was attempting had never been done before only made it more appealing. Behind her, Valak closed his eyes and felt something he had thought was lost forever. For the first time in months, he began planning for tomorrow instead of preparing for death. The human doctor's crazy theory might not work, but her absolute refusal to accept defeat was infectious. The old warrior had faced impossible odds on 100 battlefields, but he had never fought alongside a species too stubborn to recognize when they were beaten. Perhaps that would make all the difference. 3 days later, Cargo Bay 7 had been transformed into something that officially didn't exist. Lieutenant Carlos Martinez stood before a jury-rigged collection of equipment that would have given safety inspectors nightmares if anyone had been foolish enough to report what they were doing. "Okay, Doc, let me get this straight," Martinez said, wiping grease from his hands as he gestured at the improvised machinery. "You want me to combine a gravitational field generator, an electromagnetic frequency modulator, an atmospheric composition chamber, and a quantum resonance amplifier into one coherent system that recreates the exact environmental conditions of a planet none of us have ever visited?" Sarah nodded enthusiastically from where she crouched beside a tangle of power cables. "That's exactly right. Think of it as building a snow globe that contains an entire world. A snow globe powered by the station's main reactor and held together with prayer and determination," added Dr. Amara Okafor, whose usual calm demeanor had been replaced by the manic energy of a physicist presented with an impossible problem. "The quantum calculations alone require processing power that shouldn't exist outside of research facilities." "Good thing humans are excellent at making things work that shouldn't," Sarah replied, consulting her datapad where she had compiled every scrap of information about Valak's homeworld. "Carlos, how's the gravitational simulation coming?" Martinez activated a control panel, and the air in the center of the makeshift chamber began to shimmer. "Two-moon tidal simulation is online. I borrowed the gravity generator from the civilian recreation deck. They think it's being serviced." "Define borrowed," Dr. Okafor said with raised eyebrows. "I left a very official-looking maintenance notice and some tools scattered around. Humans are great at looking busy while accomplishing nothing. So nobody questioned it." Sarah grinned as she made adjustments to the atmospheric controls. "And the electromagnetic spectrum?" "That's where things get creative," Martinez admitted. "I couldn't exactly steal a stellar simulator, so I networked together every full-spectrum light array on the station. The hydroponics bay, the mood lighting in the diplomatic quarters, even the decorative aurora projectors from the observation deck." "Please tell me you didn't steal the equipment from the Etherian ambassador's meditation chamber," Sarah said. "I prefer to think of it as a temporary redistribution of resources for humanitarian purposes," Martinez replied innocently. "Besides, they're in deep meditation for another 6 days. They'll never know." Dr. Okafor looked up from her quantum resonance calculations with an expression of mixed admiration and horror. "Sarah, the energy requirements for this are enormous. We're pulling power from systems that weren't designed to work together. If even one component fails, the feedback could shut down half the station." "Or worse," Martinez added cheerfully. "The gravitational fluctuations could turn us all into a very thin paste spread across several light years." "Details," Sarah said, though she was carefully double-checking every connection. "Amara, what about the quantum resonance? That's the key to the whole theory." Dr. Okafor activated her improvised quantum field generator, a device that looked like someone had mated a medical scanner with a subspace radio. "I've managed to create a stable quantum field that should mimic the specific resonance patterns of Valak's homeworld. The frequency is based on stellar data from his birth system, filtered through his genetic markers." "Should mimic?" Martinez asked. "Well, we're essentially trying to recreate the quantum signature of a planet based on 50-year-old stellar surveys and tissue samples. It's like trying to reproduce a symphony when you've only heard 3 notes and you're not sure if the piano is in tune." Sarah stood back to survey their impossible creation. The chamber they had built looked like the inside of a star gone mad, with swirling gravitational fields, shifting lights that cycled through spectrums invisible to human eyes, and the subtle hum of quantum forces that made reality bend in ways that hurt to think about. "There's one more thing," she said quietly. "The atmospheric composition. Valak's people evolved breathing a mixture that includes trace gases that don't exist anywhere else in the known galaxy." "Please don't tell me you need to synthesize exotic matter," Dr. Okafor said. "Not exotic matter, but close. The gases are byproducts of a unique crystalline formation found only on Cathara. I've been working with the chemistry lab to create synthetic versions, but they've never been tested on living subjects," Martinez finished. "Sarah, this is getting dangerous even by human standards. What if the synthetic atmosphere is toxic to him?" Sarah was quiet for a moment, staring at the readouts from Valak's medical bay. His vital signs had continued to deteriorate over the past 3 days, despite the best efforts of conventional medicine. They were running out of time. "He's dying anyway," she said finally. "At least this way, he has a chance." "A chance based on a theory that no respectable scientist would endorse," Dr. Okafor pointed out. "Good thing we're not respectable scientists," Martinez said with a grin. "We're humans with a toolbox and a bad attitude toward impossible problems." Sarah made the final connections to the atmospheric system, her hands steady despite the magnitude of what they were attempting. "The synthetic gas mixture is ready. The gravitational fields are synchronized. The electromagnetic spectrum matches historical data from Cathara's twin suns. The quantum resonance is, well, it's something." "There's just one problem," Dr. Okafor said. "We need to test this on Valak himself. There's no way to know if it will work without putting him directly into the chamber, and if something goes wrong—" "He dies," Sarah said simply. "But he's dying anyway. The question is whether he dies with hope or without it." Martinez sealed the final access panel on their improvised environmental chamber. "You know, Doc, most species would have given up by now. They would have accepted the medical consensus and focused on making the patient comfortable." "Most species are smarter than humans," Sarah replied. "We have a genetic disorder that prevents us from accepting no as a final answer." "Is that what we're calling it now?" Dr. Okafor asked with amusement. "It's either a genetic disorder or a superpower depending on your perspective," Sarah said. "Either way, it's gotten us this far." The 3 humans stood before their impossible creation, a machine that shouldn't work, built from borrowed components, powered by determination, and held together by hope. It looked like the fever dream of an engineer with access to too much coffee and not enough sleep. "So," Martinez said, "who's going to ask Commander Valak if he wants to risk everything on a theory that might kill him faster than his current condition?" "I will," Sarah said without hesitation. "This was my idea. If it goes wrong, the responsibility is mine." "And if it goes right?" Dr. Okafor asked. Sarah smiled, the expression filled with the kind of stubborn optimism that had driven humans to reach for the stars despite having no business leaving their home world. "Then we prove that humans are too stupid to know when something can't be done." "I love our species," Martinez said with genuine pride. "We're absolutely insane, but we get results." As they prepared to transport Valak to their unauthorized medical experiment, none of them mentioned the fact that they were gambling with the life of one of the galaxy's most respected warriors using equipment that violated at least 15 safety protocols. They were too busy planning how to make the impossible work. After all, they were human. Impossible was just another word for hasn't been done yet. Commander Valak listened to Dr. Chen's explanation of their improvised treatment with the patience of a warrior who had faced death many times before. The old Catharan's golden eyes never left Sarah's face as she described the impossible machine they had built in Cargo Bay 7. "You understand," Valak said when she finished, "that what you are proposing has never been attempted. You are asking me to trust my life to untested human theories and jury-rigged equipment." "Yes," Sarah said simply. "That's exactly what I'm asking." "And if your theory is wrong?" then you die a little faster than you would have anyway. But if it is right, then you will have accomplished what the greatest medical minds in the galaxy declared impossible. Valak was quiet for a long moment, his breathing labored, but his mind sharp. Tell me, Dr. Chen, what do you know of the Great Hunt? Sarah shook her head. I'm not familiar with Kitharan spiritual beliefs. The Great Hunt is not merely spiritual, Valak explained, his voice gaining strength as he spoke of his people's traditions. It is the fundamental truth of existence. Life is a hunt. Death is the final quarry, and the measure of a being is not how long they run, but how fiercely they pursue their prey until the very end. He struggled to sit up, and Sarah moved to help him, surprised by the determination she saw in his ancient eyes. For months, I have been running from death instead of hunting for life. I have dishonored myself and my ancestors by accepting defeat before the hunt was truly over. Commander, you're not running from anything. You're fighting a biological condition that no one has been willing to challenge properly, Valak interrupted. Until now. Until a young human doctor decided that the Great Hunt was not finished. He looked directly at Sarah. I will trust your impossible machine, Dr. Chen. Not because I believe it will work, but because attempting the impossible is the only way to die with honor. 2 hours later, they carefully transported Valak to Cargo Bay 7. The improvised environmental chamber hummed with barely contained energy, its mixture of borrowed, stolen, and jury-rigged components creating something that had never existed before in galactic history. Dr. Okafor monitored the quantum resonance fields while Martinez fine-tuned the gravitational simulators. Sarah checked and rechecked the atmospheric composition, knowing that one mistake could kill Valak instantly. Gravitational fields are stable, Martinez reported. Two-moon tidal simulation is within acceptable parameters. Quantum resonance is holding steady, Dr. Okafor added. The field strength matches theoretical calculations for Kithra's unique signatures. Sarah took a deep breath. Atmospheric composition is ready. Synthetic trace gases are at historical levels for your homeworld. Are you ready, Commander? Valak nodded slowly. I have faced death on 100 battlefields, Dr. Chen. Today, for the first time in months, I face the possibility of life. As they activated the environmental chamber, something extraordinary happened. The moment Valak entered the field of his recreated homeworld, his entire body seemed to react at a cellular level. His breathing, which had been labored for months, suddenly became deeper and more regular. His vital signs are changing, Sarah whispered, watching the medical monitors in amazement. Heart rate is stabilizing, neural activity is increasing. The quantum resonance is synchronizing with his cellular structure, Dr. Okafor reported, her voice filled with wonder. It's actually working. His body is recognizing the environmental signature and beginning to respond. For 20 minutes, they watched in fascination as Valak's condition gradually improved. Color began to return to his fur. His breathing became stronger. The readings that had shown cascade organ failure began to reverse their downward spiral. Then, without warning, every alarm in the chamber began screaming. Power fluctuation in the gravitational field, Martinez shouted over the noise. The system is overloading. We're drawing too much power from the station's main grid. Quantum field is destabilizing, Dr. Okafor added urgently. The resonance patterns are becoming chaotic. Sarah watched in horror as their carefully constructed miracle began to collapse around them. The gravitational fields fluctuated wildly, creating dangerous spatial distortions. The electromagnetic spectrum flickered through impossible colors. The quantum resonance field turned into a maelstrom of uncontrolled energy. We have to shut it down, Martinez said, reaching for the emergency controls. No! Valak's voice boomed through the chaos, stronger than it had been in months. The hunt is not finished! The old warrior struggled to his feet within the chaotic field, his body fighting against both his illness and the collapsing environmental simulation. Dr. Chen, how long do I need to remain in the field for the treatment to take full effect? I don't know, Sarah shouted back. The theory suggested hours, maybe days for complete cellular regeneration. Then we have a problem to solve, Valak said with grim determination. Human problem-solving skills are required. Sarah looked at the collapsing system, her mind racing through possibilities. The power requirements were beyond what the station could provide. The quantum fields were too unstable to maintain long-term. Their jury-rigged solution was falling apart just when it was beginning to work. Carlos, can you isolate the gravitational field generator? Make it portable? Maybe, but it would only run for a few hours on emergency power. Amara, what about creating a simplified quantum resonance pattern? Something that requires less energy but maintains the core frequency? Possible, but the effectiveness would be reduced by at least 60%. Sarah stared at their failing miracle, feeling the weight of Valak's trust and her own determination to prove that humans didn't give up. Then, suddenly, she smiled. We're thinking about this wrong, she said, her voice cutting through the chaos. We don't need to recreate his entire homeworld. We need to teach his body to remember how to heal itself. Working frantically as their improvised chamber continued to destabilize, the three humans began cannibalizing their own creation. They simplified the gravitational field to its essential components. They reduced the electromagnetic spectrum to only the most crucial frequencies. They modified the quantum resonance to create a pattern that Valak's cells could learn and then reproduce independently. It's like teaching someone to ride a bicycle, Sarah explained as she worked. Once his cellular structure remembers the correct rhythms, it should be able to maintain them without external support. In the final moments before complete system failure, they managed to create a stable, simplified version of their environmental chamber. It wasn't the complete recreation of Valak's homeworld, but it was enough to remind his body of what health felt like. The old warrior stood in the simplified field for 3 hours, while his cellular structure learned to synchronize with its natural rhythms once again. When they finally shut down the system, Valak emerged fundamentally changed. His fur had regained its silver luster. His eyes were clear and bright. Most importantly, his vital signs showed stable improvement across all major systems. The immediate crisis is over, Dr. Okafor said, reviewing the medical scans in amazement. His cellular regeneration is now self-sustaining. The treatment appears to have been successful. Valak stretched muscles that hadn't felt strong in months, marveling at the sensation of a body that was healing instead of dying. Dr. Chen, you have given me something I thought was lost forever. You have returned the great hunt to my life. We all did this, Sarah said, looking at Martinez and Dr. Okafor with genuine gratitude. Humans work best as a pack. Speaking of packs, Valak said with something that might have been amusement. I believe we should discuss what happens when the Galactic Council discovers what you have accomplished here. Creating new medical procedures using unauthorized equipment and unapproved theories typically results in significant disciplinary action. Martinez grinned. Let them try to discipline us. We just proved that human medicine can cure conditions that every other species in the galaxy declared terminal. I think we've earned the right to break a few rules. Besides, Dr. Okafor added, the worst they can do is court-martial us. But the best outcome is that we've pioneered a new field of environmental medicine that could save countless lives across the galaxy. Sarah looked at the old warrior who was now standing strong and proud, no longer resigned to death, but planning for the future. Commander, what will you do now? Valak considered the question carefully. I will return to active duty, if the Council will have an old soldier who has learned new appreciation for life. and I will make sure that the galaxy knows of human medical innovation and human courage. Just remember to mention human stubbornness, Martinez said. That's really the key to our success. Indeed, Valak agreed. I have learned that humans possess a unique form of wisdom. You are wise enough to know when something should be possible, and foolish enough to ignore everyone who says it cannot be done. 6 months later, Dr. Sarah Chen received the Galactic Medal of Medical Excellence for pioneering the field of environmental cellular therapy. Lieutenant Martinez was promoted to Chief of Engineering for his innovative approaches to resource allocation. Dr. Sir Okafor was offered a research position at the prestigious Institute for Advanced Sciences. Commander Valak, fully recovered and returned to active duty, became the first non-human advocate for human integration into the Galactic Council's Medical Research Division. His report on human medical practices concluded with a single sentence that became famous throughout known space. Humans do not accept defeat because they are too busy creating victory. The old warrior had learned that the great hunt never truly ends for those brave enough and stubborn enough to keep pursuing life, hope, and the impossible dream of tomorrow. And in teaching him that lesson, humanity had proven once again that they belonged among the stars, not because they were the strongest or the wisest, but because they were too human to give up. In the end, that made all the difference.